All right, hello everyone. We should be live right now. This is another episode of Dev Impressions, and my name's Chris. I'm a host of this small podcast slash talk show slash whatever. And today I'm joined by Zaid. And Zaid, you're muted. Okay.
Oh, am I back now?
Yes, you're
Hey,
back now. Uh,
nice.
so great to have you here, Zaid.
Thanks for having me.
I hopefully this will be fun for both of us and for viewers. So maybe let's start with something like I ask basically everyone this question.
Okay.
How have you started with like F sharp? What's
Ooh,
the
that's a
what's
long time ago.
yeah? What's the story? I know I ask everyone to kind of like, oh, that's a long time ago. Oh, I'm so old now. Oh.
Okay, we'll skip the old part. um, well, it was a long time ago. I think 5 years, 6 years, when I was really interested in different programming languages. So I started off with, I started real programming in C sharp when I was actually making stuff. But I was interested in all kinds of other languages and why they're all different. I was like, whoa, you could have all these different constructs. And then because I was writing C sharp code, I would look into stuff from Microsoft. And there was this thing called F sharp, and it had a different file icons in Visual Studio, which was weird at the time. And I saw a presentation. I think every one of us have seen it. It's the one from this guy. I hope I don't butcher his name. Is called Luca Bolognese.
Yep.
I think everyone have seen that presentation. It's just so good. And after watching it, I was like, no, I have to dip my toes in here and see how and see what this thing is about. Then I bought, I think, the book from Don Syme, the Expert F Sharp 3.0.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my introduction into multiple things that F Sharp could do. And I was, of course, mind blown. I remember things like the symbolic manipulation chapter. I was blown away from that. The chapter from the web development, which brought me into Web Sharper, which also blew my mind. There were lots of really, really good things in there. Like besides that the code looks really nice and it looks really like, oh, you could do this in a really elegant way. And I was like, yeah, that's how I want to do things. And after a while, I just didn't do any F sharp because it's hard for a beginner to find something new, to find a project, especially if you don't know what to do at first. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to find new projects and what to do. So what I did is I looked into lots of web development things, did actually something with FunScript, but by that time,
That was the greatest experience ever.
yeah, like, oh my God, it actually works. You have to put like the reflected definition on the main method or something like that, and you will get JavaScript out. It was so amazing. And you could see the implementation from the sequence module and the list module in the output. It was great, theoretically, until you had to do something with it. No,
Yeah.
but I quickly jumped over to the Fable wagon, and since then I've been building stuff because Fable gave me like, well, this thing which needed lots of things, right? So I had no shortage of libraries and projects to work on since then.
Yeah. So Jesus Christ, too many questions. So what's the like switch from the C sharp as like ex C sharp developer or kind of like C sharp developer at that time? Was the switch to this like bit different mindset of F sharp like difficult for you, or was that?
Oh, absolutely. It took me a really long time to get it, especially like I don't think of myself like a bright person. It's just like, oh, I need to like think about something a long time. I have to drill into it and to actually get the concept. I remember having really difficult time understanding fold and fold R and fold left. What is it doing? Please tell me. So yeah, it was definitely a huge learning curve for me. But once I got it, I was like, wait, why was this? It's with everything, of course. Everything complicated at first, and then once you get it, like, why did I ever have a problem understanding this? And yeah, it was definitely a large learning curve. But the thing is, like, I started from C#, everything imperative. You go to F#, everything functional, and then you kind of go back to imperative, but in F#. I kind of love to mix and match, because I've kind of over this phase where you say, oh, real F# code has to be functional, but no, just use whatever will work for you. That's also, if you see my recent project, I literally, like, it just, when you don't care about these things and you just do whatever you need to get stuff done, it's so fast. It's so fast. Like, don't think about it too much. Just write whatever comes into your mind. Oh, imperative code for each loop sounds perfect. Let's do that.
Yep,
and
totally.
I've been writing code, for example, my recent open source project. I've been writing nonstop. Like, I was like, it works. Okay, next thing. And been having, like, really, really good time with it. So lots of imperative code. It's a bit ugly. It's a bit needs refactoring here and there, but it works. So who cares?
Yeah, so for the people watching, I think that the link that I've just posted in chat and is displayed on the screen, that's actually the link to the talk by Luca that was mentioned at the beginning.
It's obligatory watch for you.
It is like golden standard of introductions to, if that's the talk. Like, I only like Googled it quickly.
Do I need to check it? Let's see.
It's like Introduction to Microsoft F# by Luca Bolognese. I think that's the one.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I remember this slide, this initial slide. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. So it's really amazing. It's really amazing talk, and yeah, from this, like, generation of, like, that people that started with F# like a couple of years ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. That was like one of the biggest entry points, I guess, to language. And another thing about this, like, your comment that, oh, maybe it's just like imperative code, or just use whatever you want from F#. I totally, like, support that view. Not only I support that view, like, I'm not important here, but we had this, like, discussion panel we've done a couple of days ago on the .NET Docs show, and Don basically says exactly the same thing. I mean, you can use F# as just better Python. And by better, he means, like, type checked and faster Python. But then you just hack your program as you would hack in, like, Python exactly.
Yeah, just do whatever, it works.
Yeah, just do stuff and be super productive about that. I think it's really kind of like, there is this curve where people need to, first, when they start, they don't know anything, then they start learning functional programming, and they kind of think they know stuff, but, like, when you have even more experience, you go back to the, like, fairly simple, just do stuff that works approach.
Exactly. I don't want to think about how these three composed functions are getting their input, and then you can make a spaghetti out of expressions. It's the same. I think it's even worse than spaghetti imperative code, because spaghetti imperative code is, like, more explicit, because there's a lot of things you could follow through. Maybe you need a debugger for it, but spaghetti functional code, you can't go with the debugger through it. There's no one will take your hand to go through it, because you kind of have to, like, okay, take the innermost expression, put it in an intermediate value, then use that thing in the other expression. It could get really complicated, and I think sometimes just write a resize array, or just a for each. It would be a lot simpler. Try catch things and ignore the error. You know what? It works.
Who cares about errors?
Who cares? No, it's not functional enough.
I mean, let's be fair. Like, we are writing in F#, there is no errors, right?
Absolutely. No compile errors. No runtime errors.
No runtime errors. Like.
Oh my god! Whenever I think about errors, whenever someone tells me functional code doesn't have cannot go wrong, I always think of the function unbox, both in Fable and in normal F#, because That's like the thing I always use to make a placeholder for things that don't work. So like, oh, I need this function that returns this type. I'll implement it later. So I put a placeholder with bugs from unit. It won't work. Like there's no way this is gonna work. It's always like, oh, okay, runtime exception.
Yep,
It's
totally.
fine.
Also, it's kind of like people in this place love to say, "Hey, but what about Haskell?" And in Haskell, there's this thing called unsafe IO or something like that, which does basically the same thingy. So yeah, no language is safe. Like I mean,
No, there's always an escape hatch, and you kind of want it. You kind of want to have an escape hatch, but you don't want it to be like the dirty thing. Sometimes it's just like it's built. It's part of the language. Just use it.
yep, totally. So why web development? Did you have any like experience with web development before Fable and all this stuff, or?
Yeah, that's what I do for work right now for my day job. Oh, I actually do have a day job. Some people are are
Well,
surprised. Where we do lots of our entire work is data processing and data visualizations. So that's something that F Sharp is really good at. And every time I do something in our work, I think of so many ways that it could be better if we had done it in F Sharp or in Fable because we can bypass so many things that you would otherwise don't have. And actually, a couple of my recent projects from the F Sharp open source were came through because I really wanted to use F Sharp, but didn't want to use other tools. So yeah, we do a lot of visualizations, and that's why I keep building visualization stuff for Felice, because I know at some point we're going to use it. And I'm like,
mhm.
yes, that's the point. Here are all the tools you need. Just go get it.
Awesome. We have really good question from Ayan, and please like please ask questions in the chat. That's
Yeah.
fine. How have you found a way to extend the day beyond 24 hours?
Well, I hope it was more than 24 hours. I was just talking to Chris about it there just before this. I don't. I just have to cut more hours either from sleep or from work. It's like it's time management, but I'm not really.
Mhm.
I'm not good at it at all. Like I know when I work intensely at one project, I will be bad at work the next day, and vice versa. So
Yeah. Roman is doubting you.
I wish, man.
Yeah.
We're
Uh,
not there yet.
yeah. We all will get there. Like
Well,
we all will create some kind of like F sharp only community driven startup that will
F
earn.
sharp crypto token.
Yeah, will earn billions and then just do stuff for fun. Yeah, but on this point, kind of like so I used to be the person that people ask those questions. Probably not nowadays. Like I do a bit less open source than I used to do like a couple of years ago, and my answer was always it's really similar to like there are those people that read really a lot of books in here, and their answer is always, oh, it's not about how fast you read or kind of like sitting whole day and reading the book. It's kind of like doing this regularly for like half an hour every evening or something like that. And I do like in my case that was also the thing with open source. Like it didn't really matter. Uh, so obviously I had periods of time where I just like sit for like a week and then like was coding only open source projects. But for most of the time it was about regularly just doing some small feature one day, then doing some small feature another day, maybe 1 hour every day. So it's not like super huge investment. Obviously like 1 hour can be super huge investment
It is
depending.
very huge.
Yeah, it kind
Yeah.
of obviously depends on your like circumstances and all that. Like I was lucky enough to be working as a consultant for a couple of last years, so I was super flexible in terms of how much time I spent on work and how much time I spent on the open source.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
the thing. You have to have a job that allows it. And that's where I'm currently at. So my job doesn't require me to code 8 hours a day.
yeah,
I'm reviewing lots of code, helping teammates with their problems. So I'm not writing code all the time, and when I'm not writing code all the time, I can write some code in the evening, So that works fine. But it has to go either way. You can't do both.
People
Thank
really
you.
enjoy your stuff, and obviously, yeah, it's like so many projects. Like, I mean, I don't even know where to start. I've kind of like I try to prepare a bit I try to prepare a bit for those interviews. That's kind of like probably mind blowing for people, but sometimes I'm serious about stuffs.
Serious, Chris, what's that?
So I went to your GitHub profile. I've clicked repository button, and then I see like 250 repositories, and I'm like, okay, I'm out.
Not gonna have any of that.
No, so actually, like one of the super interesting things that you've done is this not coding project, but the Elmish book. So
Yep.
how did that happen? Like, what was your plan there, and like, to talk us through it?
Okay, so yeah, the Elmish book is probably the biggest open source project I have. So good pick. It took me, I think, about 1.5 years to go through it from start to finish, and after a couple of rewrites in the making, because I'm like writing about something I'm building. So every time I change it, I have to go back and change the book. And right now I have to do it again, but it's just not enough time for it. It started when I was learning Elmish, and I was really with most of my project, it starts with frustration because I miss something, or I don't see it around, or like there weren't enough blog posts, there weren't enough, like even the documentation. Sorry, the documentation is also it cuts through lots of things, and for someone just getting started, it was just not enough. You need some step-by-step explanation of each and every small thing. And I thought, you know what, let's do that. And I saw not a lot of people, but every time there was someone who's talking about a book, they were going to talk about it and then publish it half through, or tell or ask people for feedback to get them through it. And I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted to just do it on my own, like a side thing, not tell anyone until I have something of content, I have something like reasonable to put out. And that's where, and at that point, Roman was really nice. German Roman was really nice to help me out with proofreading. So that was also really cool that I had someone to go through the book and things like that. Because to be honest, it was one of the most stressful things I've ever written, because I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but you know how it goes. Because it's the thing is, when I write a piece of text, I'm very critical of what I write. So sometimes I will write a piece of text. It's like when you write documentation, you write it and you think like, okay, it's almost what you want something to come across, but it's not it. So and sometimes I would spend days on a single page. Yep. It's really weird. So like, okay, what do I want to explain with this? And I didn't want just to show code, because there's lots of code, but also like the explanation. What's the best way to explain something? And I was very critical of everything I wrote. But at the end, I kind of let go of that habit, and I would just write lots of it and then go back to iterate instead of staying on one page and getting stuck there, which I had lots and lots of times. Yeah. So once I published it, I think last year, April, I'm not sure. No, it was before that. Once I published, I was like, it was a huge relief for me. I was like, yeah, there it is. Please read it. I hope you enjoy it. I don't know, and I just hope for the best, So yeah, the reason is I just wanted something to have where I didn't find it anywhere else. It's like it's with every other project. I see something and I think, okay, this could be done better. This could be done in a different way. And then and then I try to put effort into it. Maybe and hopefully do it better than other people.
Yeah, and just like I mentions here, like I'm also like the same. Like I sometimes just writing the blog post that will express exactly what I wanted to express is like it's really complex thing because it's not always simple to explain in just plain English what we actually know about this particular library or this particular like language feature or whatever else.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself through the test of, do you actually know what you're talking about when you actually start to put it into words and making it into a form that is simple to understand. And I by no means think that I did it the simplest way. I'm sure someone could look at the book and say, well, this could be written in a different way. But I think I did a decent job, I think.
Yeah, it's great. I think
I don't.
in universal it's really like admired by the community, and as kind of like someone also involved in like web space in F Sharp, I love the fact that I can point people to the Elmish book and etc. I mean that's really awesome. So have you can ever like while you were writing the book, have you ever thought about maybe like publishing it as a real slash book?
Make
Uh,
money from it.
yeah, well, maybe not in the the making money aspect, but kind of there is some kind of prestige about like releasing paper book with from the actual publisher or something
Yeah,
like
that's the
that.
thing. I didn't want to have any of that. I just wanted to
Mhm.
publish it on my own pace, my own stuff, and put it out there and see what happens. Because it's also the same thing with my open source project. I don't have to ask anyone to put things out. I'll just push them out, put them out there. And I kind of didn't like the. Of course, I thought about publishing it for money. That would be great. But given how much time I spent on it, I don't think uh, how much money I would get from it would equate my effort.
Yeah.
So it's I thought I would be more frustrated with how much money I would make from it than if I didn't make any. So I just thought, okay, I don't want to do anything with that, and it's also lots of headaches to ask publishers and editors. Of course, they would help you out with the content itself, but when it comes to the actual thing, I just want it to be just like any other open source project. It's out there, you could contribute to
Mhm.
it, and of course, when it's free, it makes more. Yeah, it encourages people to also join in and help me out with it. So far, I think in the first couple of months, I had so many people send me typos, which is awesome. Thank you. That was just so good because I thought, okay, that's what I wanted because it's so simple. Everything is still as a markdown file. If you edit it in the repository, it's already updated on the website.
Mhm.
So you could just make a change and see it work, and that's for me that, like, yeah, that's why it's public. That's why it's for free. Everyone can just jump in and see how it goes.
Cool. So yeah, we have another question from the audience, also from Ayan. Is there any project that you regret starting?
I regret. I wouldn't say I regret starting. It's just like there are some projects that I spent huge time on them, but they didn't get as much attention, or
I know the
they,
feeling.
yeah, it was like, oh, I spent so much. There's like so much time, so much love put into this, but no one cares. Um, I wouldn't say I would regret those because I really enjoy building them, and I gain lots of more experience when I build them. So I don't think I have regrets. It's just I have lots of, let's say, orphan projects.
Yeah.
Nothing to back them up. I don't maintain them. I regret not maintaining enough projects because there's always stuff that I want to get back to because I really wanted to get it to the next step, but there's only so much time and there's only so many projects I could work on.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly also like back in the days also like people asked me, oh, why how I'm making only successful open source projects or some
it's not
stuff like
only successful ones.
no, you only know about my successful open source projects. You just
Exactly.
don't know those that were like failures or like no one has paid any attention to them or kind of like are not maintained anymore. or were just good idea that I've written like 2 commits of code and then
Yeah,
stopped.
sometimes you just have a huge project in your mind and you start building it, but then at least for me, I sometimes have a huge project in my mind and I start working on it, and then I realize how much work it would be to fully do it, and then I just get overwhelmed and stop doing it at that time. So I need something that is in between, that it does not take a lot of time and effort to get it out there and then iterate on it, just to get to the MVP. If it's too much project, that's something that I would usually drop, and I've did that for many projects. But sometimes it's just like, okay, I'll give it a little bit of time, get an MVP, get some feedback, and iterate on that. So that's great. And of course, recently, while building, I'm having lots of fun streaming my work. It's surprisingly, I didn't expect it to be. It is surprisingly fun, and I'm super productive. I don't know why. Maybe because I keep talking the entire stream, but I'm super productive in this hour. And it's really fun, like showing my work and then publishing on YouTube and seeing how I'm spamming everyone. By the way, I know it's probably annoying with, oh, I got a new one. So
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, so do you get like a lot of people watching and kind of like talking with you about the project? Like, how
a
it
couple
works?
of people walk. I don't think I have. I think I have I don't know, an average 5 to 10 people watching, which is already like, I was like, whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You guys like this? Okay. But I publish it on. But now that I publish it on YouTube, I think people don't need to watch it live. They just like wait for the YouTube upload.
I always so I tried live coding from time to time, like, but I always struggle with the idea whether it's like super useful for the community because they need to tune in at exactly the same time. The publishing to YouTube is definitely the good approach, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of. Yeah, I had the same thing for a while, but I thought, okay, I thought it would be interesting. Well, it's interesting to go from from scratch, to start a project from scratch. I did that with 2 projects, with one with Snowflake, which is a GraphQL code generator, and now I'm doing it with my recent project called Hawaii. I started both from scratch. I don't have the streams of Snowflake anymore. I think I just did them on Twitch by that time. I didn't do it anymore. But I thought it would be interesting to see how you build this thing from scratch. What's the train of thought that goes into building such things? Because a lot of the times you only see the end product, and you only see, oh, there's a new thing that came out. How did it came to be? I really wanted to show the train of thought, the process, and not so much teach how to code. So that's the thing I didn't focus too much on, because I think people who follow this are already know how to code or can find better tutorials than me writing code gen tools. But it's more about, okay, the iterative thing, how we're debugging. I thought it would be interesting, because if I was learning F#, I would be interested in it. So I was like, okay, let's do this part.
Yeah. Also, the kind of like, from my point of view, like when I did like public talks and stuff like that, I'm always just happy if I helped one person, that's like good enough, right?
Absolutely.
So another question from Ian: do you think that you will do so much streaming when we get back to normal?
Absolutely, of course. I would, when we get back normal, I will hope to be there wherever that will be in next conference and next stuff. But I think I'll keep streaming. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, also like the same for me. Like I plan to do this like podcast / interview / whatever it is. Hopefully this will continue.
Yeah, it's a really fun project.
It is fun project. It's something that I always wanted to do, and finally with the pandemic and like less traveling, there is time to do that. Like I used to, for the last couple of years, I used to travel a lot on the like conferences and all that stuff. So I never had enough time to commit to that. But now it looks fun. I'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it will be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking. Also thinking the same. But when things go back normal, I would like to go work abroad. That would be great. Like working, I don't know, maybe a month in Spain or a month somewhere else. That would be great because you know what, it could work. Like it was okay before, but it wasn't, I think, broadly accepted. But now it's just like, yeah, you know what, just
I
do
mean,
it.
I know the feeling. So just before the pandemic has started in like winter 2019, I was for like month and a half in Barcelona in Spain. That was
Oh
like
man,
that
so
was
good.
so cool. Yeah, it was just rent apartment.
But
Do
were you
some
working or were you on vacation?
well. So whole I was working on kind of like my stuff. So I
Okay,
was
so you were doing the consultancy stuff.
Yeah, well, not really. So I was working on some like project that I hope that I will publish maybe as a like commercial project, but this didn't really work out in the end. But still, it was kind of like I was actually coding. Like it was not just vacation or just open source stuff. It was actually yeah. I've sat for a couple of hours every day coding on this like project that had goal and as you would do on normal project. Uh,
Can I guess what project that was?
Yeah, that was this. That was the
It was
Octo.
the Chrome extension.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man, I saw that and was like, yeah, that's great, but it didn't work out.
yeah. I
Well, you
it's
made the new version of it, right?
yes. So the version exists. Again, like I've almost launched it as a project. I've kind of like even created the web page. There's even like mailing list that people could subscribe to. But then,
All the fancy stuff.
yeah, but then it's difficult to sell tools. This is like a really difficult space.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and then figuring out what's the good like monetization strategy for something like that, it was like difficult. And then I've started doing like analysis how much it would cost if I didn't, because like it was just me, like I didn't have any like VC money to burn, or like any investor. So if I started doing like analysis, how much it would cost me to host this stuff and provide good like experience for the users, and how much it would cost for users. And
How
it
much
turned,
time it would cost to maintain it,
yeah, exactly.
things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, at the thing, I have like similar thoughts whenever I think, okay, I'm start this project, and this time I'm not gonna make it for free. But then I start working on it, and it's so much time already spent. And given how much people expect things to be free,
Yeah.
I'm already already get overwhelmed because just because I need to cross that. And to cross that bridge that, oh, I built that, people would expect it to be free, and that when once it's not for free anymore, there's lots of things going on. Okay, why isn't it free anymore? Don't you make only free stuff and things like that? And again, it's the same logic with the book. I don't think I will get as much money from it back as that equates to my effort in it. So I will just do it as pure enjoyment and passion, and not anything else, because it just won't work. It just won't work.
I mean, so I had this experience with the. So I don't know if you remember, but a while ago I've built
Neptune.
the Neptune, yes, exactly, which was like paid Visual Studio Code extension that was adding the really good test support for the
For Expecto.
for not only for Expecto, it was also supporting
Oh,
NUnit.
for other ones as well. Oh,
It was
nice.
also supporting NUnit and XUnit, so it was kind of like supporting three major test frameworks that people are using in F Sharp, and kind of like pretty decent user experience in Visual Studio Code. It was really fun project. I spent tons of time into that. It was like
I can imagine.
it it was one of the most, especially from like user interface point of view, it was actually super complex code because I had to hack around like various Visual Studio Code limitations and all that stuff. It was probably more complex than Ionite at the time.
Oh,
I mean the client side of the Ionite, like obviously the lot of Ionite is in FS autocomplete, which is the lot of complexity is there. But if I compare client side of Neptune to client side of the Ionite, client side of Neptune was more complex. And then
because you had to build the tree, right, with the test groups.
Yep. And then it turned out that people were not really interested in that. So
it's really hard, because sometimes you think you can, like, sometimes people don't know they need it, and so they won't ask for it until it's there. And if it's there, like, okay, I will look through alternatives, and there are alternatives in other places. So like, okay, yeah, I find it hard as well, because on one hand you're learning this domain in programming, you're learning, which is highly specialized, because I have to learn lots of F# AST specifics and how to traverse code here and there. But if you think about it, what you learn, you won't use. Like, no company will just, well, the very specific companies will ask you to become like the tooling guy in here. So sometimes when I'm learning about it and I'm getting my toes like into these waters, I'm like, okay, why am I learning this? Is at some point it feels like a superpower, because I can generate F# code now, or I can read F# code. But okay, who cares?
I know.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like that, and like, okay.
At the same time, it suddenly may mean that you randomly start working at GitHub at a really interesting project.
That's amazing.
Which was a bit of luck, and the fact how like I was in this niche, and the same can happen for like other people. Maybe it's just time. Like Ian says that, maybe it's just timing. It was before its times. Maybe I kind of like I don't have any like bad feelings about this right now. Like I'm not like mad at the community that no one liked the project. It's just how it turned out to be, and that's fine. Like I kind of move on. All right.
Yeah, but still, it's still lots of.
Of course. It's kind of like it's the effort. Actually, like, so Visual Studio Code is nowadays adding the API for the actually built-in test explorer. There will be in Visual Studio Code. I will open source my code. Like, I mean, I will port the logic part that was like traversing abstract syntax tree to detect tests and all that. I will put that in FS autocomplete. We will have great open source test explorer in Visual Studio Code in the next couple of months. It will be great. Value for the community.
That'd be awesome.
All right. So speaking of the tooling, like one of the projects you do is the SQL Analyzer thingy.
Yep.
How do you like enjoy that? It's bit, I guess it's a bit different than a lot of your other projects, which are more web related, and that's like purely database related. So
yeah. So, well, I wouldn't say my work is web related. I think if I would to define a domain, it's more about type safe data access, right? And like in our job, also data access is a huge part of it. We work with databases. We work with Postgres. So knowing like that at the time where you were building the Ionite infrastructure for the analyzer, I was like, this would be great, because I have this very simple library which exposes this very basic API, like the NPG-SQL F# library. It like the library that which has a nice some functional wrapper on top of NPG-SQL. It had the very explicit API, very explicit interface. So you had to you give it a bunch of stuff, and I thought, okay, if you look at it, you have all the information you need to type check this thing. You just need to extract these things. So I started working on it, and then after, I don't know how much time I spent on extracting the information from the expressions, like the pipelined expressions, because that was like in the AST, and you had to take that out. But once I had that was like that's it. That's all I needed, and then that's all I needed to get it. So I took parts from the NPG-SQL type provider. So I took part from that, and I took parts from the F# AST visitor, and then combine all that information and started working and started adding stuff to it until it worked. Well, one of the things that allows me to keep building these things is having good integration tests. So whenever I start something like that, I set up my integration tests such that I can test every single test case I have. Otherwise, I just won't be able to maintain anything.
Mhm.
Like without integration test, people tell me, okay, I don't have time to pinpoint problems if I don't have a proper unit test project. The same with Fable remoting, still fixing problems after 4.5 years. Same thing, it's still fixing. But so for the SQL stuff, once I had all the information and just had to wrangle them through, I just kept working on it until the unit tests were good, and then published it, and it works fine. It works great.
Yeah, awesome. I really, yeah, I'm really happy that someone is using this like analyzers thingy that I've built.
They're amazing. They're amazing. I
It's
mean,
I think it's so it is one of those projects that I would love people to use more. It's kind of like we've mentioned that before, this like category of projects that okay, you spend a lot of time on it, and then people maybe are not using it as much as hopefully they would. So that's one of those projects. But the future is potentially bright. I mean, Don is considering adding the analyzers infrastructure to the compiler itself, and that would be actually the real solution. Obviously, my analyzers are focused on Ionite and FS autocomplete editors, so they work only in there.
yeah, sharing the F# compiler service implementation is not a fun thing to do, because right now for this project I have 3 distributions: one for Ionite, one for Visual Studio, which is an extension, a standalone extension, and I have another one as a .NET CLI tool. So and each one of them will use like the core project, the shared one, but there were so many limitations. So for example, I couldn't use fparsec because I needed fparsec to sometimes there's not enough information in the schema. I need to parse the code myself and extract things from there. So I needed fparsec, but it doesn't work in the Visual Studio extensions because of some internal unsafe stuff. So all these different distributions, they're not fun. Just make a nice interface to work with. But again, it's not a simple problem. Also because binary compatibility, you won't. That's not easy to do it across. But it would be great. It means that we have writer support as well, hopefully.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. I think that it's one of those things that I would love. It's kind of like opens the doors for like a lot of people to do really interesting stuff. Like when I was creating analyzers, I would never think that someone might do the analyzer checking like SQL queries for some SQL library. That's like amazing. Aaron has made analyzer for checking like Cosmos DB stuff.
Yeah.
That's
it uses the code from this project actually.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that allows people to contribute really nicely to tooling without diving too deep into tooling, which is really interesting. Like,
you kind of separate the problems, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to care about like code analysis and communicating with the editor are 2 different things. I don't know how these things do work right now, but I don't have to, because I just generate a bunch of error messages or warnings and see how they look like.
So let's take another question from the audience, from Roman.
Does your code writing somehow changes during time?
So I guess it's kind of like during your career with F# has it changed a lot?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about how we start with functional code. When you start learning F#, you're like, okay, I want to learn F# because it's functional first, and I want to do it the right way. And you would think, oh, F# functional first, then functional should be the way, right? So you start writing everything in functional, but then you have to remember the first part, and there are other ways to do the same thing. in F Sharp. So at first you learn all the functional stuff, and once you've done learning all the functional stuff, you think, okay, I can do this a lot simpler with just imperative code. So I do go back to basics and just use basic structures to fix my problem. Even if I think, okay, this could be it, even if it's easy both ways, I would also take for example, debuggability into account. So imperative code is a lot easier to debug than functional one, especially if things are composed. I cannot see the intermediate values. I need to sometimes see the intermediate outputs of functions before they go into the next function. Yes, I do debug F sharp code a lot. It's not just writing it and it will work magically because the types are aligned. That's not the reality, unfortunately. At least in my projects, I don't know, maybe you write some amazing F sharp code. I definitely don't. In my case, I just try and make tons of tests until they all pass and see how it goes.
Yep, totally. Don has really good talk called F Sharp Code I Love, and he mentions in there that one of the like qualities of good F Sharp code is that it's debuggable. So debugging is definitely an important aspect of writing F Sharp, and yeah, structuring your code that it is actually possible to debug is also really important. Like every time I see a lot of like point free functions, I'm just dying inside.
Yeah. I do that sometimes, just I think in Elmish code when dispatching stuff, but
Oh
otherwise,
yeah, but it's kind of like, like if it's like single like chain, then yes, maybe.
yeah, and please don't do like the operators to the right hand side. Have you seen that? Like when you pipe to the right, and then do a partial application of the plus function or the equals function.
Oh no.
People use it a lot with sequence. Please don't. Thanks.
Don't
do that.
Don't partially apply operators. No, that's generally bad thingy. I always also die whenever there is like list.sort and someone applies like greater than or like less than as a point free. I never know how it works. I never know. Because it's a bit weird, actually.
Just write it out. It's a lot easier for people to read it.
Yeah, it's like five additional characters, and it will be so much clearer for reading and for understanding. Like it's.
Yeah, but that's also another thing about F sharp. Like debugging is not really always perfect, right? And I'm not even starting to talk about async debugging, just normal debugging, right? So this is also a thing that we could have some more work done in this part. For example, if you shadow your variables,
yeah,
Visual Studio won't. I think none of the debuggers will tell you.
Yep.
I will tell you what's the next one is, because it's so expressive. It is very expressive, but that comes with a downside that sometimes you can't just put a breakpoint anywhere. So, for example, if you use it in list comprehensions, which I use a lot, when you create the list comprehension, you make a loop inside of it, and there's no way to put a breakpoint in there. And yeah, when I work with like the recent project Hawaii or the Snowflake one, I go through a schema which has thousands of things, and I want to check one thing that doesn't work. Then, you'll tell me, okay, you make the code nicer, you put it in a function on its own, and you can debug it there. It's fine. But when I'm writing code, I don't want to think about anything. I just want to go straight, right? Yep. And everything that makes me that diverts my attention to rewrite my code into something else is a waste of time for me. So I want things to just work while I'm writing and not having to rewrite the code to make it work. That's also the thing when we work with making the code testable. I want to take something and be able to quickly test it without having to rewrite it into making it testable. So there's always this thing with F sharp that say, okay, if you want to make a code unit testable, you have to use partial application. So if you take an object which has two functions, when you're using these two functions in the function, then you have to rewrite it into taking these two functions, too many functions, as parameters, right? You parameterize them to make the code unit testable, but then you have to write out the function definitions, which I don't want because I want them to be right there. They're inferred from me, and then here they're not inferred anymore sometimes. So yeah, there's lots of downsides to things that a lot of people say, well, you should just do this or do that. Sometimes, making a mock would also be nice. I think it's a blasphemy right now, but
no, like mocks are. I'm not a big fan.
Not a big fan, but like they could be useful. For example, I'm for example generating the last project generates a class, right? It generates a class. It has tons of functions, and if I have a function that uses this client, I want to be able to test it quickly. So I'm thinking, okay, how do I take this function without rewriting it and making it unit testable without having to introducing more things. Yeah. So those are also parts of the code that I constantly think about, and whether I should generate test utilities for the things I generate. It's always interesting because once you have code generation, you kind of want to solve everything with it. It's like, okay, I can do this, but should I? kind of situation.
That's actually one of my main points against introducing macros to the core language.
Because, yeah, absolutely.
Because when the macros exist in the language, then people start try to solve every problem with macros, and that becomes mess. Yeah. Anyway, so what's the project that right now you are most excited about from like your open source projects?
Most excited about? Well, I think the recent one, I'm really happy with it. The project called Hawaii, I talked about it. So this project is came about when I tried to use the type provider. Well, I'm a bit in a rebellious phase right now to go against all type providers, especially data access ones. So it's just like taking everyone one after the other. I don't want to say they're bad in like all the time. They're doing great for scripting, but once you want to include them in a normal project, like a safe project or a Fable project, tons of issues will start to creep up. So first, the limitations of type providers: you cannot generate unions and records. Mm-hmm. That already excludes reflection metadata from Fable, which is not good because we want reflection metadata to be able to do serialization. All these they kind of all creep up. You can make it. You can make a class if you can generate classes and make them Fable compatible. But once you start doing that, it's just not nice anymore, because lots of things can use unions nicely. So for example, the GraphQL generator, the GraphQL client generator, Snowflake, uses lots of unions to describe, well, GraphQL unions and interfaces. Right now, if you generate them, you have to do that way. Otherwise, you will have, I don't know, class inheritance to fix it, but it won't be. Yes. It will be really weird. So with the next one, with Hawaii, I took first the type provider, saw what it could do, what it couldn't do, and that was again generating unions, because OpenAPI or /Swagger services will give you a list of potential responses. So each operation will tell you, if I'm 200, then I will give you this data. If I'm 400, I'll give you that data, etc., etc. And that sounds like a union, right? That sounds like the result of each operation. So that's something you can do with a type provider. So that's exactly what I did in the recent one. So now it generates a union per operation, and it maps each return type to its data, and it does serialization and deserialization right off the bat. It supports Fable, so there's a Fable target which generates Fable specific stuff, which makes it a lot easier for me, I think it's a lot easier than digging into type provider implementation details, because I've seen them. Of course, I started looking at implementation details, because I wouldn't start something without checking out what's out there. But it's it's just too much work to make something that's already subpar, right? If you make them work properly, they will already not be expressive enough without the types, and they will already slow down the editor, which is like, if you're building a project, you don't want to have it even slower.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Also, with type providers, there's all the issues about like deploying to CI servers, all that. Like, I've never figured out good because like most of the data access type providers need to have like constant, well, compile time access to the database schema.
You could solve that by having a local schema. Like, some of them will cache it, and then you have to publish it.
It's definitely not.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal, and it's not ideal, and it's not straightforward. So it's straightforward to download a NuGet, to start using it, put your connection string in there, but the connection string is now a compile time thing, and there things start to sound not so beginner friendly anymore. Of course, we could work on these things. You could put it in a file and then make the file compile time data, but then that's another type provider you have to use. So it's not, I wasn't happy with it at all. And I thought, okay, you know what, we can make this better. Let's start a new project. And of course, for Fable support, because I actually use this at work. I use the Snowflake project at work. And I think I did a good job with it. I'll have tons of integration tests. So now every time something comes up, it's an easy fix. I'm also using the infrastructure from Fable remoting, so now I know the serialization will do just fine. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just another episode of the old becoming new again. Code generation is pretty damn old, right?
Yeah, I mean, our friends in chat are just telling us that every 10 years code generation returns as the next big thing.
Yeah, and it's just once you have the tools to generate code in a decent way, that's sweet, because what we're doing is generating the F# AST to generate the source code out of it. That's quite nice. I mean, the API is explicit, but once you make some helper functions on top of it, it's workable. But I don't try to go way overboard. It's important that the generated code is readable, because that's also how people file issues. They tell me, oh, this piece doesn't work, and they could actually put debug points in it. So that's great. They're like, oh, this part doesn't work, so they could debug it, and if something, it's a lot easier to figure out issues in there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, type providers are great for like scripting. Like that's the like hot place for type providers. I guess that's the best use case. I never had a huge success for like all those years I'm doing F#. I never really had huge success with type providers on real like production applications. But that's maybe just me. Like, maybe I'm holding them wrong or something. That happens. All right. I think we are past 1 hour, so we will be slowly wrapping up. Is there anything else that you want to cover during the episode? Any topic that you want to mention?
Not really. I hope to see everyone soon. I don't know when, but I will just keep an eye on the upcoming conferences. I know I would have loved to be there in Prague in a couple of weeks, but I won't be able to. But again, let's see how it goes, because right now it's pretty busy here. And yeah, I do want to thank the community for supporting, and especially the sponsorship from GitHub. It was actually a huge thing for me, because when I started doing it, it wasn't. I didn't expect all too much from it, not because I didn't have faith in what I did, but it's just like it's something that was new, and I didn't know how the people would react to it. It took me a long time to finally decide to put it out there, and the results were amazing. People are still like, they want to see me continue building and maintaining these things, which for me is amazing. I think it's a really good good move by GitHub, and I think it helps a lot of people out there. So
Yep.
thank you. I highly appreciate it, and actually it's one of the driving reasons that, like, not just it, but of course when I don't have anything to do, it's just like, okay, I'll just take on your issues first, and things like that. So that's great.
Yep, that's the link for like people watching. That's the link to GitHub sponsors for Zaid. You can go there. Please do.
If you like my projects, if you make money from them, that'd be great.
Also, like last one thing, like I mean, I see that Roman is spamming everyone about the beers that will happen in Prague. So if anyone watching is from Prague, just ping Roman.
Yeah, it was so much fun last time.
Yeah, the Prague is awesome.
Yeah, Prague is amazing. I always say last year I went to Prague, but I forgot that last year nothing happened. It's 2 years ago. It's 2 years ago. I want to go again.
Yep, totally.
Let's do that, because hopefully if you do that often enough, then
Yep.
We'll work it out.
All right, so I think that's the end for today. Thanks everyone for watching. It was great. Thank you, Zaid, for being here. That was like really, really awesome episode. I hope that you've enjoyed your time here. I hope that people have enjoyed our like little chat.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see each other on some conferences in the future.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. And for viewers, the next week I will have something different for you all. So I will be joined. I don't have announcement yet, exact date. I think it will be on. Let me check. It will be on Tuesday. I will be joined by Kolia Lampe, who is maintainer of Elm editor tooling and Elm language server. So we will talk about something bit different.
Sounds cool.
But it should be fun. So see you all next time, and bye-bye.
See you all. Thanks a lot for having me.